It's 9 o'clock the day before this game technically releases. It just struck midnight on the East Coast and the game is live. My girlfriend is nagging me to do some trivial chore I don't want to do that I don't think even needs to be done. But thank Christ I have an excuse tonight. I can't, babe, COD just dropped, I gotta make a video, and she leaves me alone cause vids make money and that shit gets her off more than folded laundry and organized bookshelves ever will. It's a lie, of course. It'll be 3 months before I put out a COD video because I'm crippled by ADHD or depression or both, or maybe they were right and I'm just that fucking lazy. Whatever it is, I'm a shadow of my former self and I'm running out of ideas for how to crawl back. Deep inside, I have this nostalgic hope that eventually everything will go back to normal, everyone will be as happy as they used to seem, the world will feel as docile and charming as it once was, life will feel as secure, innocent, and infinite as it did in the glory days of childhood. This feeling never strikes harder than when I sit down to a new COD for the first time. You think to yourself, this is it, they'll finally get it right this time, and everyone will love this game, and all your friends will be playing it all the time. The whole online gaming community will coalesce around it, just like back in the day when it used to sell 25 to 30 mil a pop. Everyone's swapping COD stories at school and you'll be hooked and look forward to playing it while you slog through your day. Maybe this time everything can go back to how it was. It's a version of what we all feel when we buy a COD these days, this faint hope for what once was, that we can recapture that special time in our lives we all had on one COD or another. People get mad about the game not changing enough, but why would it when they know that all we want is what we already had? Reply to any comment hating on COD and ask them what the ideal COD would look like. They'll have an example ready for you, and it'll be a game that already came out. COD's been selling nostalgia for the better part of a decade and we keep buying because we still yearn for that golden era of 08 to 11. I launched the game, the multiplayer servers are down, and I'm not as surprised as I should be. Great, now I have to play the 2/3 of the game I always say I'll try but never do. The campaign rapidly falls into familiar patterns of overused cliché gameplay that you can't help but roll your eyes at. The sequence where you save a wounded buddy by dragging him through an open field while you mow down entire platoons of bad guys with a pistol. The car chase sequence where every car you shoot erupts into a massive fireball. The sniping sequence followed up by a collapsing building you have to escape. Everything is linear and predetermined. When they want you to play with the flamethrower, your captain will order you to pick it up and you'll disintegrate enemies as they run blindly up 2 narrow pathways that were obviously designed for convenient flamethrower slaughter. On any difficulty below veteran, the enemy's accuracy will make the average stormtrooper look like Chris Kyle. Which is still not as bad as your own AI teammates whose bullets dissipate in the air. It's not uncommon for a single bad guy to charge into the heart of your squad, stab you in the face as your teammates scream at you to watch out while they shoot wildly in the air. If you pay attention, you'll soon realize that all the chaos and gunfighting going on around you is so much window dressing. The AI rarely ever actually hurt one another, and if they do, they're immediately replaced by an off-screen spawn. Immersion in this game requires you not to pay attention, not to ask questions, COD's favorite kind of customer. The central theme to the story is that the main character let his brother get eaten by a dog and now he feels like a dumbass, which he should, and doesn't want to repeat the incident with his buddies in the army, even if one of those buddies is Jewish, or at least that was my reading of the subtext. It's largely derivative of HBO's Band of Brothers, but without the substance. There's no real moral dilemma or ever anything that makes you feel uncomfortable. Sometimes someone will say something snotty to the Jew. Hey Zutzman, how come Jews don't go to church? We go to synagogues. And I'm like, drama! The Americans have a chummy, ugh, what a drag this is kind of attitude you might expect in a locker room or a work site, but it feels out of place in the nastiest war zone in human history. They are generally as generic as good guys get. Dad joke wit, the hard-ass commander who's hard because he cares, men who regularly disobey orders to do the more dangerous thing. It's all standard Call of Duty, unambiguous good guys, lip service to edginess without running the risk of actually causing offense, over-the-top interactive cutscenes, linear whack-a-mole virtual treadmills, all packaged in the same 08 graphics you know and love. By now, I've rolled my eyes so far back into my head that I'm bleeding from the sockets. I give up and quit on level 4, which is, to be fair, 3 levels farther than I usually get in a COD campaign. But that was mostly just because the multiplayer servers were down. A decade later and on a new generation of consoles, there's been no marked improvement in typical COD campaigns because they aren't selling a new game. They're selling you nostalgia for that time you stayed up all night beating World at War or watching YouTube guides for how to get through Mile High knife only. The good old days when that kind of shit was your top concern. If only I could give a shit about anything now, as much as I gave a shit about General Shepard's betrayal in MW2. 2 roads diverged in a yellow wood, and COD opted to stand still and spin around in circles for 10 years. It's as true for the campaign as it is for zombies. I boot up the classic survival mode, and once again, you can't help but reminisce. I might as well be walking through my fucking high school campus, reminiscing on when the squad would spend 6th period planning tactics for the new zombies map, trying to break the highest round on Ascension so you can take pics on your phone and brag about it to that other squad the next day at practice, breaking 44 with your cousin on Kino before he left for the army, 40 with Ty on Shangri-La before he left for college. The good old days when those friends were more than just memories. Coming home late from practice, strung out on the worst diet imaginable and way too much exercise. Every day sucks, but at night we get high and play zombies. Zombies is laughter and dishing on the days, gossip with your boys. It's that special kind of game mode that can push you mentally and keep you stimulated and engaged without all the added stress of the fucking faggots on multiplayer. That shit you don't need when you already got beef with half your class, all your teachers, and a rival high school to boot. Zombies is warmth, just laid back chilling with people you like and the one thing that's still fun in your life. I had hope for Zombies this year. No more jetpacks and other futuristic nonsense to pollute the gameplay. Simple World War II zombies, just like it was in the old days, because I want it to be like it was. They'll get it right this time. What is right? Right is whatever it was the time you had the most fun on it. I miss Zombies before Easter eggs became the point, back when people gave a shit about the highest round you got, back when you spent your time devising actual strategies to survive, as opposed to just doing as the YouTube video tells you. I choose a class and browse the other customization options. This is cool. There's some variety in how you play the game, different roles to fill, an added layer of strategy. The mission objectives aren't as obscure and random as I remember Easter eggs being in the past, like that only other time I played Zombies in the last 3 years and rage quit after having spent 20 minutes looking for the right penny to hold X on, or some random statue off the map to fucking shoot an arrow at. If there's one criticism I have, it's that everyone spawns with Juggernog levels of health automatically, making the game much easier, meaning the average match will last to around 20 even when people are playing like jackasses. The first half hour of each match isn't as intense or dramatic as it was back in the day when you could get 2-touch while trying to get power on, and recovering from a down at a high round meant raising funds and dodging the 2-touch while you snuck around the map to get Jug back. Getting through that and getting your friends through that was undoubtedly one of the more exciting parts of the game, and that's gone now. Still, if you had asked me what I wanted a zombie sequel to look like back in 2011, I probably would have described something like this. Clear objectives and puzzle solving, character customization and added replay value, laid back zombie slaying that pushes you without pissing you off. The ingredients are all there, but I feel nothing, because it's not the same. I want it to be exactly like Black Ops 1, everything exactly how it was, but a new map, but why? Why should that even be that much more entertaining than what it is now? The differences aren't that significant. Is that all I really wanted from this? More Black Ops 1? I already own that fucking game. That I want to relive memories from my youth? I own those too. And very few will admit it, but this is how we all feel about COD. It starts with misguided optimism and ends with us thinking this isn't how it was when I played Call of Duty X, so we feel stupid all over again and go and rage on the internet, and next time, instead of doing something like Call of Duty X, they'll just re-release it as an HD remaster and we'll be stupidly excited and buy the shit out of it. And it still won't be the same. We'll still be disappointed with it. They'll have made some tiny changes here and there, and we'll blame those, even though their impact on the gameplay is negligible at best because we're not ready to admit that we want something that doesn't exist. 2 rounds of zombies is enough for me to know that this just isn't what I was looking for. The game's been out for 3 hours and I'm finished with most of it. But most players don't care about most of the game anyways. The devs have confirmed that. Everyone has a story for the first time they really got into Call of Duty's multiplayer. It's as universal as losing your virginity. In fact, probably even more so. I asked a dozen different people what made COD so special to them the first time they got into it, and not one of them replies back to say that it wasn't in fact special to them. It was the novelty of being able to make your own classes. It was the satisfaction of ranking up and unlocking shit. It was the thrill of killstreak rewards and dominating people with your AC-130. It was the crisp beauty of that 60 frames per second. COD still has all that stuff. Why isn't it enough for most people anymore? Could it be because back then COD was the first to have it? They were the only mainstream title that did have it? Now every game has a version of that stuff. Class customization, 60 frames, kill streaks, whatever. They've all done it, they've all tried it, and even if they didn't, we've had so much of it in COD itself that it's lost its novelty. These mechanics were an incredible dish at a restaurant we were trying for the first time, but now that we've frequented that same restaurant for 10 years and every other restaurant has some version of that dish, COD itself just isn't that special anymore, even though we want it to be. Because it's not just COD by itself we're nostalgic for, it's that feeling of stumbling on something new and exciting. It's the novelty of exploring something you haven't had before and probing its depth for thrills. The joy of discovery. It's the first time you went to Disneyland and the first time you kissed a girl. Not the 10th. The 10th can't be that. It's the context. It's like when you remember how the first Halo's graphics blew you away the first time you saw them, but you go back now and it's blocky and comical. Think of all the industry resources spent trying to fill everyone's desperate need to relive nostalgia. How many HD remakes? How many copy pasta CODs? How much money have gamers wasted chasing this nostalgic dragon? Pouring money into games we are inevitably disappointed with because we don't feel what we felt that first time. Think of all the incredible new memories we've missed out on. Of every game we didn't buy because we wasted our money on fucking COD. The Witchers and Rocket League and Arks and Stardew Valleys of the world. How many people missed out on those games because they dropped their $60 on COD? And it's not just gamers, it's the whole goddamn country. It's why we elected a president who literally copy and pasted Make America Great Again from Reagan and Law and Order from Nixon. It's why they make new Star Wars movies with the exact same goddamn setting and plot as the original trilogy. It makes the original trilogy feel cheap. When I watch Return of the Jedi, all I can think is, wow, what a waste of time this all is. You're kidding yourself, Luke, because in 40 years, when you're old as dirt, everything will be exactly the same as it is now. The Empire will still be blowing up planets. The rebels, even after overthrowing the Empire, Empire, apparently, will still be some ragtag group of homeless people that has to run away from the Empire, which didn't actually get overthrown apparently, they just changed their name. The Emperor and Vader got replaced by more handsome versions of themselves, so defeating the Emperor, blowing up the Death Star, it's all pointless, none of this makes a difference. The whole original trilogy is a redundant, pointless, meaningless joke now. Because they didn't want to make a new Star Wars movie, because we didn't want one. All we wanted was to relive watching the original trilogy for the first time, and we got it, and it sucked, and now it's tainted the original memories themselves. Just like COD 4, MW2, and Black Ops 1 will always be tainted by Ghosts, AW, and Infinite Warfare. But it's not just about what COD was, it's about what purpose it served in the larger context of your life. Nostalgia is defined as a sentimental longing or wistful affection for the past, typically for a period or place with happy personal association. The word is derived from the Latin roots homecoming and ache. Fucking ache. The other day I was listening to various game soundtracks on YouTube and I stumbled across the Black Ops 1 main menu theme. Listening to it, I was instantly flooded with emotion and these memories that played before my eyes spontaneously. The good old days of cracking out on Wings of Redemption and XCal, of that giddy feeling on the way home, knowing you were gonna get high and get on Black Ops with your pals, when Tommy still played Xbox, when Waffle still played video games, that year I lived with Josh getting high out of cut up water bottles as he cheers me on during that 94-0 Nuketown game, and that stupid fucking Orphan Tear song is playing, my first YouTube video. These moments of carefree bliss, simpler times when we bore less scars. That ache in your heart when you realize those moments are over. I load up World War II multiplayer and it's all there. This game might as well have been Black Ops 1 DLC, albeit with shittier map design and boring kill streaks. I struggle to think how I could even review it without being as unoriginal as the game is. I've written this review 3 or 4 times already, and I was stupid enough to do a beta first impressions thinking there would be something new to add when the actual game came out. But isn't that kind of what we wanted? In the lead up to this game for the last 3 years really, what people have begged for is a return to the series' roots. Boots on the ground, get rid of all the futuristic nonsense so we can have some good old-fashioned COD. This game accomplishes that, but everyone agrees it still sucks. And we'll come up with 1,000 reasons why, and nitpick the game about this and that, and ignore the obvious truth that what's done is done. We just wanted the game to give us what we had that one time, whatever that one time may have been for you, COD 4, MW2, Black Ops 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, but they'll never be able to do that because it wasn't the game by itself that made those times of your life special, memorable, and it's not the fucking game mechanics you ache for. The big YouTubers you loved aren't gonna be how they were. Tommy's not coming back on Xbox and Waffles isn't gonna start playing games again. I'm not moving back in with Josh. The gang's not getting back together. The carefree bliss of youth is over. Those scars aren't gonna heal. They can copy and paste the game, but they can't copy and paste your life no matter how much money you spend to that end. And you know what? When I really think about it, I wouldn't fucking want to copy and paste those times in my life, even if it was somehow possible, despite how nostalgic I may feel for them, because I feel that nostalgia for the small little nuggets of goodness, but I hated life back then. I was miserable. In fact, part of what made COD so great was that it was an escape. I stumbled onto it at a time in my life when I was so bored, I preferred not to wake up in the mornings, when most of my day was this miserable, boring, depressing slog. 6 hours at desk, homework, sleep, repeat. And gaming became this little nugget at the very end of the day that at last gave me something to look forward to when inevitably I did have to wake up. I wouldn't go back to some version of those times just so I could play some fucking Black Ops. And you know what else? Back then I suffered from nostalgia just as much as I do now, except I was nostalgic for being 7, and now I'm 23, nostalgic for being 17. Give me a fucking break. And 10 years from now, I'll be nostalgic for my time on Overwatch and Battlefield 1, and I'll regret not having cherished that as much as I ought to have because I was so preoccupied wishing they were more like the times from my past. And my past. And it's this vicious cycle where we spend our whole lives chasing some elusive shit from our past and thus forgetting to appreciate what we have now. The best moments in life were never spent trying to recapture other moments. I get bored of the multiplayer pretty quick, but I grind through it for a while anyways to get some clips. Here's another thing I sure don't fucking miss. So fuck it, I jump in war mode. It's the newest thing COD's had in years, and you know what? People love it. They love it so much in the beta, in fact, that by launch they've promoted it to the top of the playlist right under TDM. It's not exactly original. They combined payload from Overwatch with operations from Battlefield and lifted their leg on it, but it's new, and it is fun. The spawning isn't as random, giving the fights a more strategic dimension. It's no longer running around like chickens with your head cut off. It's trying to break through a forward defensive line. Each section of each map offers a different kind of encounter. There's some actual replay value and tactical incentive to utilize playstyles that go beyond rushing around with an SMG. There's a thrill in jumping on the tank to move it forward and trying desperately to survive with smoke grenades, the desperate struggle of each side to keep the other suppressed. There's an edge of your seat excitement and intense thirst for the win that I think has been lost to COD for some time now. Without a doubt, the best part of this game is the newest part of this game. The biggest mistake Sledgehammer made was dedicating most of the playlists and maps to rehashing the same shit that's already been done. They should have gone all in on war mode. Keep your TDM, Dom, Search, and Hardpoint, put the other half of the resources into war mode, or into other new things. Even if you're not a huge fan of war mode, I bet you if they hadn't dedicated so much to the past, they would have stumbled on something you could love too. For the last few years, COD has been stuck in this strange cognitive dissonance where we said we wanted new, but obviously we still wanted to relive the old. And don't say we didn't, because there's been dozens of remakes and reskins from every franchise and we ate all that shit up, and you know it. You know it. So COD does something a little new with the mobility, but then they still try to recapture the old at the same time. And it's this hideous Frankenstein and we hate it. But what if they had just gone all in on the new? Maybe the mobility and jetpacks and wall running would have been cool if they weren't just putting it in the same 3-lane maps of the past that were the same size with the same kill streaks and perks. And the same game modes. Maybe the mobility could have worked, but it didn't, so we told them to go back, and they did, and it still basically sucks, and we're just back to square one, and now what? You want to relive Black Ops 1? It's right here, and don't pretend it's not. I had 25 fucking days on that game, and I can tell you, this is it, right here. War mode is the future. Change is the future. And part of that is on the developers to have the fucking balls to do it. Part of that is on us to let go of this nostalgic mindset that is destroying gaming. I'm tired of fucking remakes, man. I'm tired of copy and pastes. You know what else I miss? Extinction mode. It was a gem in an otherwise shitty game, but they abandoned it because it was new and we just wanted zombies 10 times in a fucking row. You know what else I miss? Overrun on Gears of War. That game mode was sick as hell, but it was new and we hate new, so they didn't do it again. You know why Overwatch took 100 Game of the Year awards and all this shit? Because it was one of the few games that unapologetically blazed a new trail in an industry that has pathetically played it safe in the past for the better part of a fucking decade. Nostalgia is dead. I killed it. And if you ever decide you want to live, you will too. Signed, yours truly, the Call of Duty community. Nah, you know I'm gonna get that MW2 remake though.